Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome you all to the first webinar organized by the Faculty Quality Assurance Cell of the Faculty of Management Studies of Sabaragamuwa University of Sri Lanka. So I'm Rudmi Sandaruvani and the member of the Faculty Quality Assurance Cell. And at the same time, I'm working as a lecturer probationary attached to the Faculty of Management Studies of the same university. So I would like to welcome you all for our webinar. And actually, our first webinar titles on the basics of internet law. So all of us are, stuck at home these days, and we are spending much of our lives online. And you might be working from home online, okay? And you might be studying online, or you might be just engaged in social media activities or entertainment activities. So anyway, so we are spending much of our lives online these days. But when you're using much of internet, so you might be you might be placing at a risk of being exploitation on the cyberspace. So and therefore, I hope today's webinar will be a plus point for you to get to know about the legal and legislation environment and the aspects of internet usage. And because this internet law maybe touches up each and every transaction and activities we are engaging online. So with that, I would like to introduce our resource person for the webinar, Mrs. Aparrajitha Ariyadasa. She is working nearly around 20 years as an attorney at law and a senior counsel, and she has her own the ATT Legal Associates, and she is acting as a patent agent as well. And in addition to that, she is providing her contribution academics as well, working as a visiting lecturer for many universities in Sri Lanka, like local partner Institute of the Plymouth University and Limcoqueen, and Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology, and the International College of Business and Technology, and the Informatics Institute of Technology. And she's currently reading for her PhD in cyber law and cyber terrorism. And her research areas maybe falls under the category of artificial intelligence, cyber law, the computer crimes, cyber harassment, and international commercial arbitration, advertising, and competition law. So with that, I think now it's time for go for the session. But before that, so I have ready a small polling activity for you all just to get some idea of our participants today. So with that, I would like to start the polling now. And I think you can see the polling on your screen right now. So it is basically asking about your current professional field, because that will benefit for us to have the basic understanding about our participants' professional field. And now you can start voting for that. Okay, 79% of our participants has voted for the poll. And I will give just another 30 seconds for you. Okay, 87% has completed voting for the poll. Okay, now I'm going to end polling, and I will share the results with you all just to have a look on that. Okay, so majority, yes. So majority, 23%, both representing the law, the travel, tourism, and hospitality industry. And then IT field, we are having 13%, and 9% are representing the marketing field, and same 9 representing the finance, banking, and insurance. Okay, so thank you very much for all your responses to that. And with that, I think now it's time for us to move towards starting our session. Okay, so Mrs. Aparrajitha, so the session is over to you, and you can start talking to your participants.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about law and the internet, but the thing is, like, I'm limiting my presentation to social media because it's a huge area of law. So I'll start with law and internet, one of the fastest moving and most important areas of law to have emerged in the last few years. There is a huge research gap, and also there is a huge demand for up to the minute information and practical guidance on how to deal with the various legal issues arising from the massive expansion and commercial use of the internet. So when you talk about the areas of internet law, it's massive. One is social media law, which I talk today. Law of artificial intelligence. It's all about chatbots, robots actually. So that law has been increasing day by day. So the other area is broadcasting law through internet. Actually, YouTube, there are a lot of broadcasting channels, internet broadcasting channels. So, and cyber terrorism. Actually, the physical terrorism happens because of cyber. Now, you will never think that ISIS attacks are planned through internet. So it's one of the areas. And electronic transactions, which is already introduced to Sri Lanka. Computer crimes, that also has been introduced to Sri Lanka recently. Intellectual property violations in the internet. Data privacy, it's being done. The draft is being done. Bill is out now. And the terrorist financing through internet. Actually, a lot of terrorist financing is done through internet. It's the main the terrorists do their financing through internet actually nowadays by way of cryptocurrencies and all, and the dark web. So it's a very huge research gap is there in dark web. And human trafficking. Even human trafficking is happening through the internet and the pornography. So I'm limiting my session because it's 1.5 hours, altogether 2 hours, 30 minutes for the questions. So I'm limiting my session with cyber harassment and IP protection, half of it, little bit of it. So when you talk about internet and social media, there are a whole heap of things which is happening in the internet. Actually, if you use it like in the positive manner, Google Uncle is the best person whom you have to, refer to in any of your things. If you want to do a musical composing, you can go to Google Uncle and ask. If you want to chat with your friends, you can go to Google Uncle, or you can download an app. If you want to sleep properly, you can download an app. And there are a lot of sleeping music. So there are a lot of things happening in the internet. Not only that, but there are a whole heap of black acts happen in the internet. So today, actually, I'm going to talk about those violations through the internet. So when you talk about internet and social media, search engines, research webs, email servers, blogs, social media, clouds, everything is included. Despite that, there are a lot of things happen exploiting the social media. So we have to analyze whether we have this law in Sri Lanka, because this is useful for the policy making and legal drafting, the lawmakers as well as the traders. So Simon Mainwaring says social media is not about the exploitation of the technology, but service to the community. Actually, so far, internet has been giving positive feedback to everybody. And also Mark Zuckerberg, who found the Facebook, he says, right now with social networks and other tools on the internet, all of these 500 million people have a way to say what they are thinking and have their voice to be heard. So all these things are good about social media, but today we are going to talk about issues in social media. So there are a whole heap of issues. One issue is cyber harassment, which has not been properly addressed by lawmakers and the law enforcement agencies as well. Because when I'm in the Facebook, there are a couple of platforms. They ask what to be done. Some students or ladies call me and ask. They are harassed by the internet. So we have to be very careful, and we have to know the law, and also we have to get rid of all these problems. So when you talk about cyber harassment, one is cyberbullying, right? One is cyberbullying. The other one is cyber stalking. Actually, I will explain these later. The other one is cyber stalking. Sexting. Sexting means sending sexual messages to the victim, or porn videos or photos or whatever. Take photos and upload in the Facebook or social media or whatever. Trolling. So you may have seen trolls, and you may have heard about trolls, but trolls were seen in the stories, but now internet trolls are there. So revenge porn. So some guys, actually, when they break up with the girlfriend, they take their pictures and send it through media, social media, and online witch hunts. I'll explain it properly. What are online witch hunts? So we have already heard about witches in our childhood. Again, the history repeats, right? So even witches are there in the internet. Fake news and the privacy abuse. Apart from that, addictive use. So nowadays, the kids or even adults, they are totally addicted to social media or totally addicted to the phone. Fake news. There are a whole heap of fake news going on through social media. Privacy abuse, misleading information, violation of intellectual property. So AI attacks, artificial intelligence, cyber terrorism, cyber warfare, whole heap of things. Actually, there are more on internet, but still there are the little of instances or issues which is happening in social media. So when you talk about cyber harassment, all these are called cyber harassment: teasing, rumors, gossiping, insulting, threats, Cyberbullying, lies, name calling, harassment, mean words, all these are called cyber harassment. So we have to ask ourselves whether do we need laws for that? Why do we need laws for that? We need laws because there's a whole heap of agony as well as physical agony, and also it has the impact on health, academic work, social work, and there are a whole heap of long-lasting consequences of bullying. So since there are a lot of repercussions, and also there are research statistics from Australia as well as from Sri Lanka. In total, 95% of teens are connected to the internet, and 85% are social media users. According to the study from Pew Research Centre, Australia, all these people are bullied by cyberspace. So as per the statistics, 9% of the teenagers are bullied by Twitter, 10% by YouTube, 12% by WhatsApp, 31% by Snapchat, 37% by Instagram. So now see how pathetic is it. Still, Sri Lankan academia has not done such this type of research, but I have done a little bit of research because this is my area. So that is the situation. Because of that, we have to see whether our law covers all these areas, and also whether our law protects the victims. So when you take Sri Lankan statistics, actually I visited CID. If you want further details, you can Google my name through Google and see. It's a research article on harassment beyond borders. It's the same thing, cyberbullying and all. So result is in 2017, actually I did this research in 2017. Sorry, 2018, but as per 2017 results, 1,000 cyberbullying complaints, more than 1,000 cyberbullying complaints were reported to CID, because CID is the enforcement authority. That's why CID is getting no point going to just police. Some people go to police in order to complain, but no point. It's the CID. I'll tell you what to be done in my final stage. So approximately 90% of the university students have suffered from cyberbullying as per Sri Lankan statistics. So I have actually detailed the statistics in the slides. 80% of cyberbullying offenses took place on social media with Facebook, which being the most common bullying site. Even we are harassed sometimes, right? The most prevalent bullying offense among university students was the posting of embarrassing videos or photos. Actually, from the universities which I teach in around 5 universities in the world. There are a lot of complaints. There are a lot of female students who come and complain, "Madam, I have this problem." Right? So it's a pathetic situation in Sri Lanka. The most prevalent bullying offers among university students were the posting of embarrassing videos. It's 65%. So it's a huge amount. Posting private information of victims on the web was 15%. Spreading gossip or lies, 9%. Anyway, it's happening not only virtually, but in the physical world also the same. Like there are a whole heap of gossip. and posting insult is 2%. According to a recent study in Sri Lanka, 90% of the universities are bullied. 90%. So it's a huge amount. So when you talk about legislations, actually, I wanted to detail you. Actually, if policymakers or the lawmakers are available in this forum, I just wanted to show them that the law is expanding. Unlike in Sri Lanka, law is expanding like day by day, daily. So legislation against cyberbullying. In 2017, Texas passed Davis's law against anti-bullying. That means cyberbullying that criminalizes as bullying and cyberbullying. They say that it's a criminal offense. Cyber stalking. What is cyber stalking? Cyber stalking is also the same. Repeatedly send the same thing. Repeatedly send the same thing is called cyber stalking. You stalk people. But in Sri Lanka, if the boyfriend, after the breakage, if boyfriend or the girlfriend text continuously, that is not a thing which is getting concentration. So, but in other countries, cyber stalking is an offense. It's a criminal offense. It's because the victim is victimized, penalized, and also hatred is generated. I don't know whether this is a major concern in Sri Lankan culture. So cyber stalking, when you talk about cyber stalking, there are actually in Sri Lanka, there's no statistics available in cyber stalking. Actually, it's altogether called cyberbullying, that's all. So I took cyberbullying events in America in 2017. 5% of the students in grade 6 to 12 were stalked. 15% of high school students, 55.2 from university students, 20% stalking cases in Los Angeles, 40% is from New York. So likewise, a whole heap of statistics is there with regard to cyberbullying. So when it comes to legislations, in America, there's a particular, actually I took scattered legislations. I picked and chose a couple of legislations. So Violence Against Women's Act provides space for legislation of cyber stalking. So in Sri Lanka, there's no legislation for cyber stalking, but actually there's a scattered legislation. I'll explain you. If you go to courts and, if you have something like that, a case or something like that, you can actually have a try with that, these loopholes in our law. But I don't think it's a bad law anyway. So when you talk about the legislations on cyber talking, the other act is from Australia, which I saw, which I observed as a very comprehensive legislation. Actually, I wanted to put a little bit of it. So the stalking is properly defined by the act. It was executed in 1999. So see how behind we are in the law. So despite the fact that a lot of people are stalked or bullied or whatever. And sexting. Sexting is a growing issue in the digital era. Sexting means sexual invitations or porns or sexual messages to people or sending sexual videos. Actually, sexting is as per statistics, sexting was prominent in Snapchat. So there are technologies as Snapchat. In the Snapchat actually, even though the content is deleted, it remains for a while. That period is enough for a stalker or sexter to get the photos or the videos. So be careful when you Snapchatting. It's not encrypted. So Snapchat is one of the main social media where you can find a lot of sexting involved. So the minors are affected because of that, even though the adults sexually implicit images are there. Minors can be seen. Minors are considered to be child pornography under this territory, state and Commonwealth laws. So minors are affected by the Snapchat videos. So most of the time, Snapchat is used by teenagers. So recent Senate Select Committee report on cyber safety in Australia stated that child pornography is material that depicts a person under 18 engaged in a sexual post or sexual activity, or that has as its dominant characteristic the depiction for a sexual purpose of a sexual organ of a person under 18, which reasonable persons would regard as being in all the circumstances offensive. So when it comes to sexting, even though we have a couple of laws, I'll explain you later on, this is very particular. The other countries, the law is really particular, it's precise. So we'll analyze the Sri Lankan law, whether it is safeguarding victims. I don't think we have a very bad law, but it safeguards to some extent. So we'll analyze whether it's there. So if you have a client who is affected by these things, you can, explain the judge about the law. So penal code. So as we all know, the so-called Dandaniti Sangrahaya addresses the criminal offences committed within or outside of Sri Lanka. So even the act is committed outside of Sri Lanka, the penal code exists. So it's a extraterritorial jurisdiction. It has an extraterritorial jurisdiction. So it's a we'll analyze whether it addresses these things. Child Protection Authority Act protects. Child Protection Authority Act is formulating a national policy on the prevention of child abuse and the protection and treatment of children who are victims of such abuse, for the coordination and monitoring of action against all forms of child abuse and for matters connected therewith and incidental thereto. So Child Protection Act is addressing all the problems of the children. So whether we'll see whether it's addressing this virtual problem, virtual harassment, virtual sexting, or virtual abuse. So the other act which addresses abuse is the Domestic Violence Act, number 34 of 2005. So Domestic Violence Act stands to provide the prevention for any act of domestic violence and for matters connected thereto. If any spouse, one of the spouses, it may be the wife or the husband, is harassed by the other spouse, you can actually take action by the Domestic Violence Act. But unfortunately, this particular act doesn't mention about the virtual harassment. Even the Child Protection Authority Act doesn't mention about the virtual harassment. So I just wanted to see the evolution. So prohibition of ragging and other forms of violence in educational institutions Act number 20 of 1998 prevents ragging in educational institutions. But unfortunately, there are a whole heap of instances where the children are bullied and they have committed suicide, even in Sri Lanka. Right. So in this act also doesn't address the virtual space harassment. But we'll see. We have to find since we have lack of legislation, we have to be with the legislation, and also we have to see whether the existing legislation is addressing these problems. Otherwise, if our client or if you are victimized, you will not be able to do anything. If I say no, there's no legislation. No, you have something. You can analyze the law. You can interpret the law accordingly, right? So, so we'll see. Usually, our statutes protect victims. Above statutes protect victims from cyberbullying. We have to analyze whether our statutes protect victims from cyberbullying. We'll see. Right. One is the penal code. Section 345 of the Penal Code Sri Lanka could be used to address sexual harassment. Luckily, it doesn't refer whether it is in the virtual space or the physical space. So since that virtual space or the physical space, lack of the term, we can definitely use section 345 of the Penal Code Sri Lanka for sexual harassment. That's the section which is used by CID at the moment. Section 372 deals with extortion and section 483 with criminal intimidation. Actually, this stalking, as per the definition of the stalking, it is intimidation through the one of the aspects. One of the elements is intimidation through the internet, to the virtual space. But even though the Penal Code of Sri Lanka prohibits the said crimes, there's no legislation which comprehensively addresses bullying via cyberspace and thereby leaving citizens unprotected in Sri Lanka. Right? So we have to pick and choose what is there in our legislations and act accordingly. We have to play by the ear. And obscene publication ordinance. Obscene publication ordinance. So you can't publicize pornography. Obscene publication ordinance of number 4 of 1927. So it was in 1927. So virtual space is nowhere in the act. But still, since it doesn't particularly mention about the virtual space, we can definitely use this. In addition, sharing of edited, intimated images without consent could be a punishable offense under section 2. So we can use this ordinance also if you are sexually harassed. Not only women, but also men are sexually harassed nowadays, right? So you can actually take an action, even the men. So I'll get you to Computer Crimes Act number 24 of 2004. That is one of the favorite act of mine, because actually if the law enforcement authorities, law enforcement agencies properly address, properly understand this act, you can cover most of the harassments done by the internet. But unfortunately, I don't know whether it is happening in Sri Lanka. Computer Crimes Act says, but it's not a wholesome legislation. It's not a wholesome legislation, but it covers a lot of things. As long as you properly analyze the words. So we'll see whether this act adequately protects the victims from cyberbullying. So actually, this act is an extraterritorial act if you do a computer crime within the territory. That means within the territorial limits of Sri Lanka or in another country, you can get yourself arrested. Actually, CID has a special unit for that. Along with the Interpol, they have a good connection to Interpol. So this act is providing for identification of cybercrime and to provide procedure for investigations and prevention of such crimes. So this covers unauthorized access, copying data unlawfully, offenses against national security, dealing with unlawful data, illegal interception. That means streaming and all. When you stream web data, you illegally, a person could be arrested. Dealing with unlawful data, illegal interception, using illegal devices, unauthorized disclosure of information. So there are a lot of unauthorized disclosure of information. So there was a huge hahu against a very popular actor. So this goes with this. So if you properly analyze, you can definitely have a loophole. And virtual conspiracy. So there's a lot of virtual conspiracy happening all over the world, which we don't know and which is not alive. And also sending viruses. So when it comes to viruses, Trojans and malware or whatever, it has a section, but it has to be properly analyzed. In this session, we don't talk about cyber crimes like sending viruses and all, but we are only talking about cyberbullying or cyber harassment. We can properly analyze by this. Actually, I'm a bit happy about this act because it more or less it covers like almost everything. So section 7 of the Computer Crimes Act says any person who intentionally causes a computer to perform any function, knowing or having reason to believe that such function will result in danger or imminent danger to public order. So these type of things like sending fake news, sending misleading information, bullying, stalking, everything can be interpreted or can be analyzed under this. That means it makes a danger to public order. If somebody do sexting to the public, so if a woman is harassed, it's public. It affects the public interest. So, but unfortunately, public interest, the word public interest or public order is not properly analyzed or not properly defined by the Constitution, even though the Constitution has a provision in about public order. But the thing is, like in other countries like UK, so they have a separate public order act to define the public order. So public order means riots, violent disorders, affray, fear or provocation or violence and harassments, alarm or distress are the offenses violating the public order, which is not properly defined in the legislation in Sri Lanka. So section 7 of the Computer Crimes Act makes it an offense for someone to obtain unauthorized data from a computer or a storage medium and to exploit the same. So I'll tell you a good story about it. Actually, one of my clients, the story is in the next slide, I suppose. One of the clients came to me, very popular businessman. Everybody knows, the whole Sri Lanka knows him. He came and told me his photo from the Facebook was extracted and uh, published in a YouTube video saying that he's a rapist. So that video was going viral all over. There were a lot of videos created as such. So there's a small loophole in the legal arena, but this was not accepted by the law enforcing agency because the photo was public. But the thing is, for the defamation, we can have a separate action, civil action, but we couldn't take criminal action against that. But when it comes to women, of course, we have a lot of loopholes and we have a lot of provisions in order to safeguard cyberbullying. But anyway, as per the analysis, this particular act is also cyberbullying, which comes under witch hunts, but it is not properly addressed in the Sri Lankan law. It is not properly defined. So if the judiciary is enthusiastic in this defining all this, it will be very easy for us or the victims or the lawyers to go on with the law. So as per the Article 11 of the Constitution, no person shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. So even cyber harassment should be prohibited. If somebody torture, if somebody annoys, if somebody terrorizes, if somebody offends via virtual space, either via email or messages or whatever electronic means, should be a cyber harassment, which is not properly addressed in the Sri Lankan legal arena. But anyway, in a court case, we can use all these sections and explain the honorable judicial officers to consider these things, and they will, if they give a proper interpretation, it will be very easy for us to go on with the loopholes. So as I told you, story of my client, practically what happens in the Facebook is, like, if you are harassed by somebody, you can complain the Facebook. And then the most difficult thing is anonymous accounts. Anonymous accounts, actually Facebook is having a good monitoring mechanism now. So they create Facebook account in someone else's name, and using that profile to insult people would be form of a computer harassment, cyber harassment, but it can't be mapped properly. So that is one of the thresholds which we technically face in the virtual space. So why we need to stop cyber harassment? Because there are a lot of suicide attempts demonstrate the serious harm that can be administered through forms of cyber communication. So there are a lot of suicide attempts. There are a lot of deaths happening because of a lot of rapes. So we need to have a proper jurisdiction, and also, but we can, definitely, stand for victims by using the existing legislation as well. So as I told you, Sri Lankan legislation is a scattered legislation where you can have it here and there, use it here and there. So there should be a proper defined legislation for these cyber harassments. So modes of cyberbullying. So there are various type of cyberbullying which happens all over the world. So a message communicated online can be sent to anyone with internet access, is present immediately, and cannot be taken back or deleted. But when it comes to WhatsApp, you can delete the message. As soon as you send it, if you don't want it, you can send it. But when it comes to SMSs, you can't delete. You can delete it, but the other party receives the SMS. And also the other difficulties because the stalker will be anywhere in the world. So these type of legislations, as in Computer Crimes Act, should be extraterritorial, should have an extraterritorial nature. That means it should be applied, it should be applicable to all over the world, not only to Sri Lanka. Most of the enactments, most of the statutes are territorial. So these type of acts, since the space is virtual, should be extraterritorial nature. And also the stalker can stay anonymous. Actually, I'm running out of time. I can give you a lot of examples and a lot of case laws in this area, but the thing is, like, since we are running out of time, and also there are a lot of non-lawyers, we are not going to talk more details on sections and all. It will be boring then. And also the stalker may easily impersonate another person to communicate with the victim. So he will use another person to communicate with the victim. And also the stalker may use third-party individuals to contact or communicate with the victims. Actually, when it comes to cyberbullying, these things happen often, right? So you have to be very careful. If you are victimized in such a way, please, as soon as possible, either block the account or complaint, and put the maximum privacy in your Facebook or whatever. Don't put your personal, try to minimize your personal photographs or whatever. As per the Sri Lankan legislation, extraterritorial nature of cyberbullying is a unique crime warranting unique laws. So it should be a unique law. Therefore, it is more beneficial for Sri Lanka to create a new legislation. This is my idea, rather than modifying previously existing legislation. So it's a hassle to, make amendments or whatever. If there's a new act for the cyberbullying, we can include everything. So my problem with the existing legislation is most of the criminal acts have to be proved beyond the reasonable doubts. So it will be very difficult for us if it is there in the virtual space, because these incidents sometimes don't have proper evidence. Therefore, our technical capacity of the law enforcement agency should be strong. As an example, if somebody uses voice recording, I may say, like, if I appear against that person, I will say, no, it's not my voice. It's subject to proof. Voice is subject to proof. So in order to prove the voice, what can you do? Laws can't do that. It's the technicality. Cyber forensic. There should be some sort of cyber forensic, strong cyber forensic equipment in order to prove this is my voice, this is so-and-so's voice. It's just like proving the genetics. But the thing is, in CID, there's a good cyber forensic unit. But so far, I have not come across the voices. Can be voices are properly, the forensic voice forensic is properly done. So there are a lot of loopholes. If you know your science a lot or physics, or you may understand cyber forensics is the lacking part. If I say it's not my, actually even the voice can be edited. Now technology is so high. There will be artificial intelligence. So our lawmakers and the judiciary has to understand this. There are a lot of technicality involved in this type of things. You can't just say, no, it's this person's voice. No, you can't. You are a layman. By listening to a voice, you can't say. It's a frequency which has a couple of hertz, right? So it's a very crucial and a very, very crucial area when it comes to subject to proof. So therefore, the cyber forensic unit should be well equipped and armed to combat the cyber warfare to prove the victim's case beyond reasonable doubts, to help hold perpetrators accountable for cyberbullying. So when it comes to the lawmaking, law enforcement agencies, sometimes they want to take action against cyber harassments, but since the law is not there, legislation is not there, they are helpless. They can't take an action. But as lawyers, we have to explain them, look here, this legislation is there, that legislation is there, this section is there, that section is there. So even though with the limited legislation, we as lawyers, or we as people, we as victims, we have to know to educate them sometimes, even though they are very good in their cyber, even though they are having a very good cyber crime unit. So these type of, actually, if you have any questions, you can fire your questions by way of chats. So end of the session, I'll discuss all the questions. So you can send it through your chat, because we have already unmuted the video, as well as the host has unmuted everything. So you can send by way of chat messages, right? So reporting agencies of cyber harassment are CID. CID, Cybercrime Unit, is the place where you have to go. CERT, actually, they are not the enforcement or the law enforcing agency. So CERT is dealing with the Facebook, and they will, like if there are things happening in the Facebook, they will inform the Facebook and get the actions. CID is the place if you are victimized. But the thing is, we have to properly analyze whether you are victimized, right? So for ladies, of course, you can straight away write to them. But when it comes to males, there's a small problem with regard to Facebook photos, right? So CID is the place you can either email. It should be in writing. Complaint should be in writing. You can write a letter to CID, or you can send an email to the director CID. So Facebook, if you are harassed, or if you are bullied, or if you're stalked, you can straight away write to Facebook and complain in the Facebook. There's a icon for that. So even the YouTube, you have a icon. If you are harassed by way of the YouTube, you can complain. But with regard to Facebook, there's no proper agent in Sri Lanka, but he's in India. So we are in touch with them. So if you have any problem with the Facebook, you can actually send an email. I'll talk to them personally, because seldom they get help from me for this legal advice and all. So when it comes to victims, there are a lot of loopholes, because the only place where you can complain over these type of things is the CID. So if a person from Jaffna is harassed, he has to straight away come to CID to give the statement. So once you write to the CID, they will analyze whether cybercrime occurs, and then they will call you to give a statement. So there are some practical difficulties with regard to these reporting mechanisms, but they are doing a very good job. So you can always, make a complaint. So Sri Lanka CERT, I told you what they are doing. Facebook, you can complain them. And the other issue with regard to social media is addictive use. So in other countries, addictive use has become a problem, and also it is treated as a criminal offense. Some people are addicted to porn videos, especially Sri Lankans. As per the research, it's the maximum amount of people were in Sri Lanka. So addictive use is also a criminal offense as per the American law, but it's a bit of a niche area which has not been addressed by a lot of jurisdictions. It is social media addiction. As per the SMART Act of USA, actually it has not been passed as an act as yet. It's the bill. It's in the bill stage. So SMART Act is the act which is passed as a bill from USA. So it is called Social Media Addiction Reduction Technology Act. And can you remember that we've been talking about witches in our childhood? I don't know whether you have heard of witches. Witches were there in the history. So as usual, history repeats. History repeats in the virtual space. So there are witches in the virtual space as well. So these are not at all addressed by our law, but addressed by other countries. So witch hunts. In the past, witches were hunted. Witches are people who get together and murder people, abuse people, ransom people, etc., etc., etc. So the person, the leader of these witches are called the witch doctor in the past. So when it comes to social media, there are cyber witch hunts. So the definition of a witch hunt is a situation where accusations are made freely, especially against someone or something that is not popular with the majority. So somebody, spreads a bad story about somebody. Okay, fine. The person X is having AIDS. No reason is needed. There are a whole heap of things. And also when a talk is going on in social media, out of the blue, somebody says something else to, attract other people and make the whole thing a mess. Right? So I actually personally have seen, if you, all of you all are in the Facebook, there are whole heap of witches, right? So they are criminals. So in other countries, they are called criminals. That's why in social media, our people use whole heap of, filthy language, abusive language, and, everything. Because the lawmakers are not aware of all this, or else they are not concerned about all this. Witch hunt. So the witch hunt is an attempt to find and punish particular group of people who are being blamed for something, often simply because of their opinions and not because they have actually done anything wrong. So they take somebody, a well-known person, and put something which is really inappropriate. So the victims of this form of violence are often beaten, tortured, publicly humiliated, and murdered sometimes. Even through the Facebook, the murders happen. So social media witch hunt is also the same. So there are a whole heap of people. If you analyze, if you go through your own Facebook, there may be a lot of people who do witch hunts. There are laws against witch hunting. So the victims, mostly the victims may be the women or popular people or celebrities or whoever, right? So it is the misinformation is used, misunderstanding is generated, and without any fair hearing, the person is mentally and physically abused. So that is called witch hunting. So so trolls. Trolls. Have you seen trolls? We have seen trolls in the films. Who are the trolls? Trolls are the people who want to make people angry. So we have heard of trolls in the book Three Billy Goat Gruffs. So you have heard about a troll which eats the goats. Even in the cyberspace, you have trolls. Who are they? Trolling is defined as creating discord on the internet by starting quarrels or upsetting people by posting inflammatory or off-topic messages in an online community. Basically, a social media troll is someone who purposely says something controversial in order to get rise out of others. So they discriminate others. They put inappropriate things to discriminate the others. So these days, actually, these things may happen like often. If you call the telecommunication, or if you call the telecommunication provider, you will get a message. Thanks for contacting customer support, but we don't care about our problem. Likewise. So the customer will be totally upset. So these trolls will make internet mad. anger, and want people as miserable. So they make the life miserable. So that is also a cyber harassment. So even for social media trolling, in 1988, there's an act in UK called Malicious Communication Act, and amended in 2003 as the Communication Act. So social media is also a criminal offense by the other countries. And revenge porn. So sometimes couples, when they break up, they will make some nude photos and send them viral. That is called revenge porn. So, but in Sri Lanka, of course, we can, take action by way of the penal code, but there's no particular act called revenge porn act. But in USA in 2015, the Criminal Justice and Courts Bill introduced a targeted law against revenge porn. So law is evolving. So fake news and defamation. So for fake news, of course, we can use, with regard to public interest, of course, we can use the Computer Crimes Act for fake news. But there's no particular act for fake news, but other countries actually fake news is properly addressed, but we can, analyze the Computer Crimes Act properly and, put this as a public fake, if the fake news impact the public order, we can of course use the Computer Crimes Act. And defamation. Defamation, of course, previously the criminal defamation, the penal code was amended. So we can claim damages for the defamation if somebody makes defamatory comments in the social media. So privacy abuse, data privacy bill is on the way. So violation of intellectual property. So when it comes to violation of intellectual property, the IP Act number 36 of 2003 addresses the intellectual property. Today I'm not going to discuss this in length, but I'll just run through a little bit because there are a couple of concerns. So violation of copyright means first we have to know what are the things which is covered under copyright. So literary, artistic and scientific work is covered under copyright. Literary work means when it comes to IT, online blogs, write-ups, web content, flyers, research articles, books, brochures, lectures, sermons, computer programs are categorized under literary work. And there are a whole heap of things, but in short. So artistic work is whatever the artistic work, films, videos, photos, art, web design, songs, mashups, etc., etc. And scientific work, so like plane structures of Da Vinci's, likewise, whatever the scientific work. So when it comes to violations, if somebody copies these things, it's a offense. But the thing is, there are exemptions. I just wanted to tell this little bit because when it comes to downloading articles for education, when it comes to copying, copying the images or whatever, downloading music, downloading videos, if it is for the personal use or teaching, education or archives or news reporting, simply if it is used for non-profit education, or if it doesn't make any unfair competition to the person who make it, to the owner. Actually, this is a vast area of study, but I'll give you in nutshell. I'm only talking about copyright today. You can use, actually, if you download the article, it's not an offense. If you copy something for education, copy image for education purposes, face-to-face teaching purposes, it's not an offense. You can use. If it is for personal use, it is not an offense. But if you use YouTube videos, you download it, you copy it into DVDs and you sell, that is an offense. You download ebooks and print it out and sell it, it's an offense, right? So there is a duration in copyright as well. So this is a very vast area. So I just wanted to run through it. And I just wanted to let you know about the software industry. When it comes to software programs can't be copied at all. That's the very reason where you license the software, right? As per Section 6 of the Act, software programs and architectural designs can't be copied at all, right? So, and also trade secrets. When it comes to employment contracts of software developers, there are a lot of undisclosed information which are vested with the software developers, engineers who do machine learning, AI developers, or freelancers as well. So if you are an employee of a specific organization, you are not entitled to disclose that to the second employer. That means you resign from somewhere, the particular company X, and join the Y company. You are not supposed to disclose because it's an intellectual property of the company. But if you are a freelancer, you can always, you are the owner of your data or the source code or whatever with regard to computer programs. So there are a couple of questions fired to me. So if you want to know more on internet law, actually it is a vast area. I have researched a couple of areas. So you can get these lists of publications, and you can always go through. And it's actually those are research articles which is done in many conferences, and also which are published in a lot of foreign journals. So I think for your academic knowledge, if you are interested in reading, you can read them. So I'll answer your questions. Can police authority access or order us to give access to our private Facebook or email, etc. accounts? If so, what is the procedure? Must there be a warrant? Yes. Even the police can't access your personal account without the court order. Not a warrant. Actually, police CID has to go to courts and get a court order in order to access your account. There's a particular police officer for investigations. So he goes to courts, or at least they open your computer. They can't ask for your password. But normal police can't do anything. Only the CID with regard to computer matters or computer matters, whatever, with regard to computers, the CID has to deal with it. So I won't read the names. Is there a difference between cyberbullying and cyber stalking? Yes, cyber stalking, of course, cyberbullying is the thing which is the most crucial part. But cyber stalking, of course, if somebody chats with you continuously, like even to ask you out, it's cyber stalking. Sometimes it may not be a detrimental act, but some sort of a disturbance. So it is called cyber stalking. What if we had sexting with both parties' consent, and after some time both parties are separated, and after some time one party claims for compensation? No. If there's a consent, of course, I don't think it will be a problem. So all are adults, so I don't have any problem with that. So even the law doesn't talk about consent of sexting. Right? So compensate, of course, they can't ask to compensate for sexting. So if it is a marriage, promise of marriage, you can always go to district court, and but you have to prove, everything has to be proven beyond the reasonable doubts. But civil cases, of course, you have to have have proper evidence. But with regard to sexting, they can't go. What are the legal aspects of being an imposter using a Facebook account? I have to talk to ITA and not make the regulations properly, tell them to make the regulations properly. So the minister or the ITA can make regulations with regard to that. Still, there's nothing as such. Other than the Electronic Transaction Act, do we have a dedicated data protection or privacy law similar to GDPR? Yeah, that's what I was talking on, Data Privacy Act. Actually, GDPR, when it comes to GDPR, most of the countries are relying on GDPR. Actually, I went through the data protection bill. Still, I didn't find any, actually, I couldn't scan it properly, but GDPR not spoken properly. So some companies, it is a problem when it comes to a territorial jurisdiction. That means if our Data Privacy Act itself is an act in Sri Lanka, it will be a problem with regard to foreign, with regard to international trade. So it's a crucial area. But yes, we have to consider GDPR. Just give me a second. My computer memory is battery is running down. Memory, memory battery. Battery.
Okay, so all the other members can place your questions or further clarifications about any legal loopholes or statistics or any matter that that you might have faced in your life. So you can place all these in the chat box, and then later on we will take them all into the discussion.
Is WhatsApp safer than other social media? So I think you all are searching for loopholes, right? You all are searching for loopholes. Actually, since it's it was a question. Yes, WhatsApp has a end-to-end encryption, so it's safer. It's sort of a VPN. So general data protection GDPR imposed in Europe. Not only Europe actually, GDPR is the most popular and in the European Union. Europe, I think this guy is one of my students, Tamal interview. I don't know. GDPR imposed in Europe cover the data protection in which is there any point address respective to internet data protection, social media, or is there any relation with internet data protection? Yes, the thing is like data privacy act. Data Privacy Act is being drafted. It's in the bill stage now. So very near future you will get the protection, but the thing is it doesn't comply to GDPR. So I'll check with your questions. So I'll read it out. Some of the can you allow or grant the permission to record the session? Actually, it's already done.
Actually, Ms. Aparrajitha, we are recording from our side of the host, and we will later on upload the full recorded video on our Facebook page. So, and I will send all the participants about the notification email with the link. So, and we are having another one question. I will read out the question for you. Can the police take over our mobile phones and go through the information contained in the phone without a court order?
No, you can't. Actually, this is the most popular question which I got from most of my clients. No, you can't. They can't. They have to get a court order. Phone is also a computer device. Actually, it's also a device. So they can't.
Okay.
Where can they get statistics on cyber crimes happened in Sri Lanka so far? So statistics, of course, I got it from CID through my personal contacts. You can contact me like if you are doing a research. Actually, I can give you a help. What is the legal recognition of screenshots? Screenshots, of course, all this data accepted by the law because of the Electronic Transaction Act. But the thing is subject to proof. You have to prove. So yeah, photographs, screenshots can be used as evidence. But the problem is the subject to proof part. So what else? You can place your questions. GDPR I answered. What is the legal recognition of screenshots?
There is another question from the audience. I will read it out for you. Where can we get statistics on cyber crimes happen in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, I answered that, Miss. I answered that.
Okay.
Statistics can be taken from court cases and also from the CID Cybercrime Division. So if anybody needs help, just give my email address. They can liaise with you. So I think I have already answered almost all the questions. No? Yes, I have already answered all the questions.
One more question we got right now from the participants. He's asking about, is there any decided case in Sri Lanka accepting WhatsApp as evidence?
No, not tacit. Not tacit. Because this is a very niche market, niche area in Sri Lanka, but other countries, yes. If you want, I can give some cases. WhatsApp, of course, it's having end-to-end encryption, so you can't get the data. So evidence, of course, you can't take it. Like if I am the prosecuting attorney, I won't allow, because it's having end-to-end encryption, so it can't be used. Any other questions? Can we use Viber or WhatsApp chat records as evidence to the police? Yes, Viber you can use. Viber, of course, Viber doesn't have end-to-end encryption, so there's a good cyber forensic unit in CID, so they will do the needful. But don't use WhatsApp if you want it as an evidence. So if you are a cyber forensic expert, you will understand when the end-to-end encryption is there, you can't have the data, proper content. How to prove a cyber crime on court if we do not know the person who committed the crime? So they can do it. They are having the expertise knowledge, and they will, by way of IP address and everything, they have the connection with the Interpol as well. Even if the criminal is from another country, CID has the powerful unit. So they are connected. If both parties accept the WhatsApp message they send, can they be used? Yes. If the both parties are agreeable for the WhatsApp messages, there's no problem. Right?
So if there anybody who would like to raise a question online, then please click on the raise hand feature. So then we will give you a chance to raise your question online. We got another question. So it's about, are there any legal coverage to the authors whose textbooks are freely published in the internet?
Freely published means sometimes these publications may not have the duration, because after some time, as per Sri Lankan law, it's 70 years after the death of the owner of the book, it goes to public domain. It's free. So free books, of course, we can. There's no authority or no ownership or nothing. So you can do whatever you want. Because of that, now with regard to Shakespearean dramas, so that's why everybody makes books, publish books, Shakespearean dramas and all. So if it specifically mentions that the copyright is reserved, you have to be very, very careful. Because sometimes this Springer and all, they have free ebooks. You can use it like for your personal use, but when it comes to printing and selling it, you have to be careful. Just check the publication date. From the publication date to, you have to see whether the duration is over. But still, since it is the ownership, it is having the ownership of another country, you have to check the duration of that country. Usually it's 70 years, like almost all the countries, but sometimes it is for 50 years in some countries. So if the book is in the public domain, yes, you can always use it. You can sell it, you can do whatever you want.
Okay, there is another interesting question from the audience. It is about the selling database of emails. So he's asking, we see in certain online forums, some people are selling databases of email and phone numbers. So obviously without the consent of the users. So he's asking, what is the legal background of this?
When it comes to databases, of course, copyright is there. But the thing is, when it comes to privacy, data privacy, we are getting a lot of SMSs now from a lot of food providers. So still the Data Privacy Act is not in existence. So we have a problem with that. So still they can use our private data, but in the very near future, it will be stopped. It should be stopped actually, because the private data is private, no one can use it.
Okay, there is another one question. So what about the law on suicide games, play or die? The
Suicidal games of, yeah, now this gaming industry, of course, yeah, that is the thing. Now this is just like witch hunts. Still the law is not clear. That's why I told you this area is having a lot of gaps. Still the law is not evolved in such a manner.
Okay. Yes, another question.
But the thing is, as per penal code, attempting suicide is an offense. But these type of games, of course, it's not a purpose attempting suicide. So it's a crucial area actually. We have to address, the lawmakers have to immediately address this. And what about the covering? And what about the covering songs sung by singers, which were already done in the past by original author, and make videos and publish them in YouTube? When it comes to YouTube, of course, when the as long as the number of viewers are there, you don't earn money. So as long as you don't earn money, it won't be a problem. It's it's for fun. It's for the personal fun like thing. But the thing is, when it comes to earnings, if there is an unfair competition, actually this is also a very crucial area with regard to intellectual property law. The thing is, YouTubers, what they do is that they will increase the viewers, and then they are getting the money from the platform. So this is called the gig economy. When it comes to gig economy, there's a regulation for the laws for the gig economies. So it's a loophole. But the thing is, for the time being, you can't sue them because they are not earning anything. If they are, can you explain about dark web? Actually, I just wanted to, talk about dark web. Dark web, of course, when it comes to law, it's the darkest area. Actually, I'm addressing that in my research, but still it is not addressed in Sri Lanka. Dark web, there's no law. Still, there's no law, but lot of drug trafficking, lot of human trafficking is done in the dark web, done through the dark web. So, lot of drugs are, imported, exported, and also Sri Lankan dark web activities, of course, no one knows about it. I don't think anybody knows about it. So I actually do some research on dark web in my PhD. So in the very near future, you will get it. So I'll tell a little bit on artificial intelligence. When it comes to artificial intelligence, the citizenship has been given to Sophia. So if the citizenship is given to Sophia by Saudi Arabian government, it will be a very crucial area even in Sri Lanka. Even in Japan, one chatbot has been given the citizenship. So it's a very niche market in Sri Lanka, which I address. Like if you go to my YouTube channel, you will get laws on AI.
So before winding up, we can give you another few minutes for you to raise your questions. Okay, if anybody who are having your questions, or maybe anybody who would like to get the legal advisory from Mrs. Aparrajitha, so you can directly contact her. So you can see all the contact details on the screen. Mrs. Aparrajitha, we are having another question.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yes.
Yeah, is there any procedure to register online business? Whatever business, of course, there's a procedure. If it is a sole proprietorship, you can go to business name registrar and get it registered. But if it is a private company, you can go to registrar of companies and get it as a private company. So it's under companies law. So no matter whether it's an online business or not. Actually, there are a lot of things involved in this internet law. Terrorist financing, finance, lot of things, financial frauds, etc., cryptocurrencies, lot of things. But during the very limited time, actually, I think I have, explained everything like within this topic. So thank you very much for your patient hearing. So
Okay, there is another one question. May I read it for you, Miss?
Right to Information Act. Yeah, I can see. How the Right to Information Act applicable in accessing and acquiring cyber data. With regard to accessing and acquiring cyber data is vested by Computer Crimes Act, not with the Right to Information Act. Actually, Right to Information Act is to get the information, but when it comes to cyber data, you have to, it is governed by the Data Privacy Bill, Cyber is Computer Crimes Act. Intellectual Property Act, those are the
Okay, I think that's all questions from the participants end. And with that, I would like to wind up the session now. And first of all, I would like to thank Mrs. Aparrajitha for taking your time and sharing your insights with all the people, all the participants for this webinar. And I think from the participants, they are much interested and they are raising so many questions relevant to this topic. So thank you everyone for raising your questions and take all them into the discussion in this forum. So thank you very much. And I invite all of you to stay tuned with us for upcoming webinars as well. So I think there might be some poor connectivity issues you might face because here it's heavily raining, thundering, and lightning. So thank you for accepting all these barriers, and hope you will enjoy the session and learn something from this webinar. And I think you will enjoy with us in future webinars as well. So thank you very much, all of you, and uh, stay safe and good night. Thank you very much.
Good night. Thank you very much.